Rape case. This occurred in 1993. At that time, I was attached to the Un-Ubi NPP located at Block 9, Unos Crescent. It was during the Chinese 7th month, and as usual, I was on the C shift. Yeah, supernatural things always occurred in the hours of darkness. I was out on patrol at about 330 hours with my partner, a young Chinese boy serving his NS, when we received a dispatch from our DOR, Division Ops Room, to attend a case at the Block 3XX, Ubi Avenue 1. We arrived at the scene within 10 minutes and knocked on the complainant's door. The door was opened by a young woman in her early 20s. She had a towel across her body to cover her modesty. She was hysterical. She was holding a cluster of garlic and a cross on one hand and a cleaver on her other hand. She looks glad to see us and immediately invited us into her house and led us to her kitchen. She was speaking very furiously and at a very fast speed, which we had a hard time to comprehend. But then I told her to put down the cleaver and her other items. She only put down the cleaver, but not the cluster of garlic or the cross. She said it's for our protection. She then led us into her kitchen. Inside the kitchen, we noticed the cup was smashed, and there was a bad liquid believed to be coffee. There were also some drawers were on the floor with all its contents all spilled all over the kitchen's floor. There was a foul smell like shits, and there was some black thick grease on the floor. There was also some torn clothing. She then led us to the kitchen's window and pointed to a tree located about 10 meters from her kitchen window. She then asked us, "Can you see him?" I replied, "See what?" She looked at us with unbelieving eyes and again said, "Can you see the creature?" I again replied, "See what creature? Madam, there's nothing there. Officers, are you blind? There is a man on the branch of the tree, and his severed head is resting on his right hand's palm, and he is smiling and looking at us right now." Both my partners again took a long look at the tree, but none of us could see anything. "Look, madam, are you on your medication? Drugs?" She shook her head. "Are you saying that there's a headless man on the branch of the tree outside your house, and he is holding his severed head in his hand?" She nodded. I turned to my partner and said, 32. My partner nodded his head. 32 is police jargon, which meant insane person. I turned back to her and said, "Madam, there is nothing out there, and I think it's your imagination working overtime." Her face turned pale, and we all led her back into her living room. This is her story. We still have to entertain her, even though she really is 32. Janet, not her real name, is a Chinese Singaporean and had recently gotten married that her husband was away in Malaysia for work. They have shifted to Ubi just 3 months back after their wedding. Her husband, Jack, not his real name, is an oil lubricant salesman and has traveled intensely to Southeast Asia countries to service his clients. Her husband has left for Malaysia earlier in the day. He intended to drive to KL to meet his clients. Janet said, "Officers, what I'm going to tell you, although it might sound incredible and you might even think that I'm crazy or high on drugs, but I can assure you 100% that neither am I high on drugs or is crazy. What I'm going to tell you is the truth. As I could not fall asleep, I made myself a cup of tea before watching a VCD. That time they still didn't have DVDs. As I entered the kitchen, I felt a strange presence. It was like someone staring at me from a distance. Thinking that this was my own imagination, I continued to make my coffee. It was then the entire unit's lights went off, leaving the entire unit in darkness. As I was trying to locate a candle and some matches from one of the kitchen's drawer, I saw someone had jumped in from the window. The creature then tried to rape me. The thing grabbed me from my rear and hugged me. Its hands were groping my breast. The thing then tried to undress me, and As a result, my pajamas were torn. I was struggling with it when I caught a look at my attacker. It was tall, dark, and huge, and its body was covered with a layer of thick grease or engine oil. Its eyes were bright yellow like black jaguar's eyes. I then grabbed the washing board and hit it on its head with it. The creature gave out a loud shriek, and then its head rolled off. The creature then got up and picked up its head and flew out of the kitchen's door and rested on the tree's branches outside my unit. The creature is still sitting outside my unit in the tree. She then showed us her torn pajamas, which was covered from the kitchen. On the torn pajamas, there were clearly 2 sets of handprints on it. Its palm prints were covered with grease and mud and showed up clearly. As my partner had completed giving the facts to our DOR, our ops sergeant instructed me to give a call back to DOR. I told my partner to stay with the complainant while I go downstairs to use the public phone to contact DOR. It was nearly 0435 hours when I spoke to my ops sergeant. She informed me that a Singaporean car had been involved in a fatal accident along the north-south highway of Malaysia after segment early on at 100 hours. The car had overturned and handed upside down inside a small river. A body with its head severed was found in the wreckage. I replied, "Sarge, I'm still engaged in a case." I thought she wanted me to inform the next of kin. Police officers, sometimes when the next of kin cannot be located or contacted, they will get the police to assist to inform them. "Corporal Christopher, please let me finish," said my sergeant. From the contents in the deceased's wallet, it was established that the deceased was a Jack Lim, residing at blocks 3XX UB Avenue 1. It is the same unit that you are attending a case right now. You are to inform his wife about the fatal accident. I then went back to the unit and informed Janet about the accident as gently as I could. Once I told her, she fainted and fell to the floor. We carried her back to our living room and put her on the sofa. I summoned for an ambulance. While waiting for the arrival of the ambulance, my partner and I heard sobbing sounds coming from the kitchen. We went to investigate and managed to trace the sobbing sounds to the tree. However, neither of us could see anything. It sent a chill to our bones. When the ambulance arrived, Janet was conveyed to the hospital. It was learned that she passed away the same day without regaining consciousness. After the incident, whenever I attended any cases near the vicinity of the block, it never fails to send a chill to my bones. I hope that their souls will find peace wherever they are. This story I'm going to tell you guys is what I heard from my dad some 16 years ago. My dad used to work as a boilerman at Alexandra Hospital, which was then located beside Queensway Shopping Center. My mom and I used to visit him at work as she would bring him food, and when he had to work the double shift. It was a freaky place if you ask me. One night, my dad came home about 1 a.m. after covering a shift for his colleague. I was still awake but lying down on my bed trying to get to sleep. As usual, he took a shower and sat down to have his hot tea that my mom prepared for him, and he had a chat with my mom. I overheard all of this from my room. "Dear, just now as I was preparing to go home, while changing, I saw something perched like a huge bird on top of the bin that they throw women placenta after birth, which was near the mortuary. I ignored it, but when I was walking to get my car that was parked close to it, I had a good look and I saw the pretty lady perched onto the side of the bin and eating the placenta. He rushed into his car, and as he was driving off, the thing sort of like glided alongside and then went upwards into the dark sky. I was freaked out when I heard it and closed my room window and then went straight to sleep. My auntie had worked at the Yishun Compact Factory for already 10 years over. Many times she had encountered spirits from her ever so careless workplace as she worked during the night shifts. One night, a Friday night, my auntie came down with the migraine and told her colleagues that she needed a break for 30 minutes. So she went to the second floor where all the sofas are and lied down to take a short nap. As she was about to doze off, half dreaming and half in reality, she suddenly saw the double doors which were in front of her swinging. At first, she saw a shape of a sack behind those doors. Later, she saw a being, shaped of a Puchong demon, with the two knots were hopping towards her. During that moment of time, my auntie was perspiring when cold sweats were drenching her whole body as the Puchong demon came and sat beside her on the floor. It said to my aunt not to be afraid, as she had came to my aunt in request for help. My auntie was too scared to say anything, but she just quickly got into sitting position. "Please, have pity on me," the thing said. "I was once a worker here when this place was just opened. I was raped, and then later was locked in the female toilet on this floor. They pulled my long hair and locked the toilet door so I can't escape. I was left like that for many days until I died. Later, my body was tied up in a sack and buried somewhere in this factory ground." My auntie was too dumbfounded and frozen in her seat, but I don't know how she managed to go through the whole moments with that thing near her. "Now, if you would please help me untie this sack's knot, I will promise not to disturb you anymore," she said. My auntie just nodded her head and the sack took shape in a punchong and bent itself in front of my aunt, while my aunt forced the tight ropes to untie them. At last, with so much struggles, my auntie managed to untie the ropes. As she pulled the ropes away from it, the Puchong turned into a woman's shape with her long hair. She turned her face away from my auntie and thanked my auntie, reminding her not to forget Allah and to stay with the company until she got retrenched. And now it's been 2 years since my auntie's retrenched and her encounter with the ghost is still fresh in her mind. I have an incident to share. It happened at my old place, which I moved a month ago. I didn't move because of that presence though, I moved because my landlord had sold the house. Actually, I'm never much inclined to such things, which is good I guess, but my sister who was living together with is more so. Our beds were on the second floor whereby there was a staircase leading to the hall on the ground level. We always left our bedroom doors open while sleeping so long the air conditioning was not on. As my sis was drifting into her sleep, she heard loud, distinct footsteps coming up from the hall towards her room. Followed on, she was an unusual chill down her spine. She said she was scared to death. After 10 minutes of struggling the fear under her blanket, she took courage to get up from the bed and slam the bedroom door shut. She didn't tell me the next day her ex-boyfriend slept over the next night. Not the first time he came over though. While they were chatting before they fell asleep, he told my sis, "Do you know you have invited a guest into your house? It's a little girl. She likes to play at the staircase." Mind you that my sister did not tell him about what happened the night before. By the way, we've always known that he can see things. More things followed up, but nothing destructive because he said the spirit was harmless. We let her stay on. After all, we knew that in about 3 months we would have to move anyways. This story was told to me by one of my friends. She, Rena, experienced it herself. She was one of the footballers in the national female under-21 soccer team. As usual, she was practicing with her teammates at around 5:30 p.m. On this particular day, the venue of the training was at Queenstown Stadium. Like other practices, Rena will take a bath at the toilet in the stadium after training. It was not uncomfortable to take a trip back home by MRT with a sweaty body. Most of her friends were just living nearby the stadium, so they just washed their faces, but they didn't take a bath. Usually they will wait for each other till all of them had finished cleaning up before they were leaving. All of this only ended around 8:30 p.m. On this particular day, Rena did her usual cleaning up herself in the cubicle while her friends just washed up at the sink. She was still bathing when suddenly she heard her coach voice asking her to hurry up as the toilet was going to be closed soon. She told the coach that she would just needed a little bit more time. When she had finished, she went out of the cubicle. She combed her hair at the mirror. She was surprised as her friends were not waiting for her today like any other day. She then saw the coach went into the cubicle. She waited for the coach so that the coach won't be locked up in the toilet. However, the coach was taking way too long. 10 minutes had gone and yet the coach was still not out of the cubicle. Afraid that something might happen to the coach, she went to the cubicle. To her horror, the door of the cubicle was not locked. She pushed it open. The coach was not there. She then quickly grabbed her things and went out of the toilet. She was walking towards that gate of the stadium when she felt something was pulling her bag from the back. She tried to walk forward, but the pull was so hard. In the end, she fell down. Then she saw this white thing flying over her head, laughing. It was a Pontianak. They're mythical spirits of women who died while being pregnant in Malay and Indonesian culture. She then saw her friends running towards her, asking her what had happened, and to her horror, the coach was with them. She explained to her friends what happened. They were surprised. Her friends told her that they saw her left the toilet before them. They said that she told her she had to get home fast, and it was why she went to the toilet without counting on her. They saw her leave the toilet. Until now, it was still a mystery. Who was the coach in the toilet, and who was the Rena that her friends saw? No one knows the answer. Hi, I don't know if you read my story in Stomp or Razor TV. However, I would like to share my true experiences with IT. It all started while my hubby and his partner were scouting for a cafe unit because the previous unit in Tazamek Tower had been torn down. They were indeed unlucky to find this unit in Changi Village. If I put in bits and pieces, I realized it did not welcome us. First, when they were supposed to move into this unit in the afternoon, the movers broke down, called them that they can only make it in the evening. By the time they went to Tazamek Tower to unload and load, it was already past midnight. Hence the next morning, my husband went to Changi to do all the unpacking. Only half a day there, a fire broke out near the pantry area. I did not join my husband till their 3rd month because my ex-boss was retrenched and returned to Germany. Since I love to bake, I supply the cafe desserts, homemade cakes and pastries. Nothing much happened till the 6th month in this unit. First, I began to see flashes. Then I told my husband, and he was surprised because he experienced it several times but did not confide in me. I just had this gut feeling something was there. I can't see, but something told me it's there. The next day, I bought my digital camera, didn't bother to review it, and only saw it on our way back. It appeared as an orange orb on the tabletop. I realized my instinct was right. I began to research something about this thing called orbs. As days passed, I realized I spotted it. Here are some examples. Stray cats started to flock into our cafe entrance, looking as if something was jumping from one end to another. The mustard that my husband frequently used went missing. The service staff saw flashes like we did. Bees swamped to our speakers on one afternoon. Roast kitchen left on the altar less than 20 minutes were maggot infested. Water tap and radios were turned on frequently. Oh, This unit had been blessed by a Catholic priest when they first moved in. Because of this incident, we consulted a Thai geomancer who told us that there was a little boy and an old man in this unit. We were told to get an old toy, something which is obsolete, the small drum that can be heard when you turn the beads. Despite all these and further photos taken, the orbs got more and some kind of apparitions can be seen in the photo. I had consulted the SPI and they were unable to tell me the findings. During our last month here, we were terribly drained from our many freaky incidents and bad businesses that we decided to give up the shop. Although 2.5 years had passed, I had not given up my research. Recently, believe it or not, this psychic from Canada contacted me after looking at my photos. She told me through the pictures this unit was cursed. Something happened in the 60s, a massive fire started and killed many lives there. She seemed to be able to connect with some souls. It seemed they were trapped, unable to head to heaven. There was also this eerie photo which I took from my husband as a memento. A blade-like object appeared. In this, she conveyed that this was old blood, a male figure which will always be around. It makes me wonder why none of the tenants, including ourselves, never stayed in this unit for more than a year. Escape Theme Park. I worked in the theme park a few months back, and there were a few experiences which I encountered during my working as the ride operator. The theme park is located next to the Pasir Ris Park, and you know how the park will look at night. I was stationed at one of the rides at the far end, and it's the only ride built on top of the toilet. As the ride operator, I was supposed to load in the guests, give them spiel about safety rules, run the show, and unload them after the show ended. One Friday night about 10 p.m., I was getting ready to stand down the ride, which was about 10:15. There were no more guests at my station, so I was doing my area cleaning when suddenly a group of 5 teenagers, 3 girls and 2 boys, came up the stairs. They brought 5 helmets, which I thought they rode bikes here. They placed their helmets outside the booth control room and went inside the ride. They were all quiet all the way. Not a single word I heard them say. I then went up to torch them and give them my spiel, but I tried to turn it on, but it wasn't working. My leader just changed the batteries that day and it was working before. I didn't think anything of it. It was very dark inside, but I could make out that they were all just sitting at the front row. After my spiel, I went down to start the show. Halfway through the show, the stimulator stopped and both the doors opened. Somebody must have pressed the emergency button. I went up to see what the emergency about was when I realized the simulator was empty. Not a soul inside. I thought they were playing with me. I went down to see that their helmets were not there. I straight away ran down and asked my leader to stand down the ride. I handed in my resignation that very day. Old Changi Hospital experience. A few years, me and my team, SPT, went up there to investigate to obtain proof that if the place was really as haunted as rumored. Our team consisted of only 3 members. The rest quit for obvious reasons. We were armed with a night vision camera, a sound recorder, and of course the standard issue camera. So we entered the hospital, passing the guard's table, and we went to the morgue. First priority. Once we were down there, a very strong odor of blood hit us, and we know straight away that an entity or multiple entities are present. These spirits or entities are classified as Class 4 because they induce change in the environment, but is still not seen. We scanned the area with our video camera and took some photos and moved on. We then went upstairs to the 2nd story where we recorded strange sounds. Sounds of trolleys being pushed and moaning. We later confirmed that we were the only ones there. As usual, we took the photos and videos of the area and moved on. We then stumbled into the operation theater. We think it is. And the smell of blood hit us again, but less pungent as in the morgue. Next, we went to the last story. We don't know what floor it is, but... And the most happening things happened there. We got to see small flashes of light and sounds of people talking. The next thing caused us to quickly exit the hospital, and my friend almost shit in his pants. Apparently, one of the members suddenly felt very cold where the rest of us were sweating like pigs. Suddenly, an invisible force brushed against him, causing him to lose balance and fall into the ground. He dropped his camera too. Next thing we did was to quickly walk down the stairs, get into my friend's car, and drove to Changi Village. Later on, we developed the photos we reviewed the shots taken. At the same time, listening to the tape records and the video camera, we managed to capture some orbs and flashes of lights on the photos. What astonished us is that in the morgue we captured a huge amount of ectoplasm flowing from the trays, and this stunned us a little. The video cameras reviewed little excerpts for a few orbs and probable shadows. It might be ours. But what really frightened us is the tape recorder. We actually captured many sounds. Sounds of people talking, moaning, screaming, faint and muffled, and the sounds of trolleys pushing. After that experience, which is our last, we split the group, and the group is now left with me. The photos and video were destroyed by my other members because he wanted to forget the whole incident. What's left is only the tape we recorded it. So my conclusion is that Old Changi Hospital is a very, if not super haunted place. The rumors are true as we had experienced it ourselves. We don't recommend people to go there either out of curiosity or for some cheap thrills, because the spirits that haunt the place are quite strong, one of the strongest we've encountered. Glossary or terms. Classification of types of entities. Class 1. Entities that affect the environment through sounds heard, most common. Class 2. Entities that could be seen or filmed or captured on video cameras. Example are orbs, which is the second most common. Class 3. Entities that could be seen by the naked eye, potentially dangerous. Class 4. Entities that could manipulate the environment through smells, temperature variations, sudden chills, inexplainable gusts of wind, and electronic waves. Usually cannot be seen, but entity is strong and therefore potentially able to harm a living person. Recommended action is to walk away. And Class 5. Entities that can manipulate or move objects such as chairs, slamming doors, floating objects, etc. Another form of manifestation is called poltergeists. The most dangerous kinds of spirits or entities most often can be felt by a living person as an invisible force. It's advised to evacuate or run for your lives if ever encountered. In Cerebum Scouts Camp, there's this particular toilet between the main kitchen and the chief commissioner's room that has no mirrors. Female toilet. Somebody told me that the row of mirrors were too old, so they were removed. Some said that if you go to the toilet alone, and when you wash your hands, the mirror reflects something walking at the aisle between the two rows of toilets. After some activities, we were given a break, and I asked my friend if she wanted to go to the toilet with me, and she refused, saying that she was too tired to walk. I thought that was sheer nonsense, so I walked away. As I walked towards the toilet, I heard footsteps behind me. Thinking it was my friend, I didn't turn around to look. When I entered the toilet, I went into the cubicle to do my business. I could hear my friend walking into the toilet and loitering just outside my cubicle at the aisle. My friend just walked up and down the aisle repeatedly until I began to flush the toilet. My friend opened the door and walked out. When I saw my friend the next day, I told her that she might as well have waited for me if she went to the toilet, but she denied following me. One day, another friend called me up to ask if what I experienced was true, and I confirmed it. She told me that she had experienced it many times before and didn't think it was a pervert. Anyways, it was harmless enough not to frighten anybody. Maybe it could be a wandering soul. Maybe now they will believe. Huh? No ghosts in Singapore? Never seen a ghost before, but there was this ODAC night hike a few years back when I was in AJ for the first 3 months. I think it was 1993. We gathered very late at night at the Mankrichi Reservoir. We hiked along the cross-country path, and before long we came to the cemetery opposite it. There would be groups walking and solo walking. It was during the group hike that something happened. We were walking in an Indian file when I saw people, or whatever, walking towards us. If I remembered correctly, there were 4 of them, each possessing a wooden stilt on their shoulders, walking in unison and in rhythmic footsteps. Imagine Chinese vampires bouncing together. Get the picture? My group passed them, and while going past, no one turned their head. They didn't notice us either. It was a while after then I initiated the questions. Did you see what I saw? Then the person behind me and a few others who overheard, you saw the coffin too? And the coffin bearers? That happened a long time ago, but my friends and I still discuss it about that particular creepy night. Coffins sighted at night, burying the dead at this unearthly hour. It was 2 to 3 a.m. Who are those people? And when you walk the ground at night, you will hear the sounds of twigs breaking underneath your foot, leaving rustles. But I didn't hear any noise from them at all. This was a true story that was related to me by a colleague of mine who is now working under the same company as I am. As she do not wish to discuss about the matter anymore, I hereby wish to express her feel to all and hope that everyone will take this as a lesson and stop visiting these places. I believe that all of us share the same opinion over the name Old Changi Hospital, is that the place is haunted, and I believe that the name has risen in popularity over the few years because many different people have different stories to relate about their past experiences there. Personally, to be honest with you all, me myself have not only once but twice went to that place to explore, certainly out of curiosity. But luckily for me, I did not have any encounters with them. Initially, when my friends gave the idea of visiting that place, I thought it was just another place that was inhabited, and people started creating stories saying that they saw ghosts roaming the place. But the moment I saw the building in the distance, the hairs on my hands were already standing at their ends. And the more I got closer, the more scarier it became. All the girls that we brought along were clutching all the male hands, kept on tugging and hushing us to turn back. But the more they tugged, the more determined we became, and not long after, we found ourselves at the entrance. The entire building was engulfed in darkness, and I could feel my adrenaline rushing. The feeling was indescribable unless you were there to feel it yourself. Finally, due to the horrific sight and the fear that was onrushing, we turned back and headed towards the bus stop. That was a personal experience of mine, and now I'm going to share the story that occurred to my friend. The friend of mine is a Malay female, and she's turning 28 this year. Her name is Siti. This incident happened a long time ago when she was only at the age of 16. That was when Old Changi Hospital was still functioning. On that fateful night, she decided to pay a visit to her friend that she had admitted to the hospital. Among her were 2 of her other friends, both female. As all of them were plain lazy, they decided to take a shortcut at the side of the building facing the car park. It was a flight of stairs leading to the second story of the building. Due to the silence and isolation that surrounded that region, few people dared to take the risk and use that staircase. When they were about to climb the stairs, something caught the eye of my friend. She turned around and, horrors of horrors, she saw a white body hanging on a tree situated nearby. Her face and long hair were kind of spreading outwards and standing too. She could not see her white face because the back was facing her. She was dumbfounded, her legs rooted to the ground. She just could not move but kept staring at it. One of her friends who saw it fainted on the spot, and the other, who still had the sense to know what was happening, rushed up and called a few male friends who were already there to come down. By the time they arrived, that thing was already nowhere in sight, but my friend Siti was still in a daze and her eyes were still on the tree. Here comes the funny part. She actually peed in her pants. It took some time for her to regain her senses, and when she finally came around, she realized that her friends were shaking her vigorously before she broke down into tears. The guys kept asking what happened, but I guess only the three ladies know for themselves. The reason why I'm telling you all of this is to hope that you all will learn a lesson out of other people's experiences, especially those mischievous ones. Never let your curiosity overcome you, because curiosity killed the cat. You might not know that you're the next victim. The best is to keep away from them, and they won't come and harass you.